And Fabio Bento, you are our speaker, and you are an associate professor at Oslo Met in Norway. You're Brazilian by nationality. And Norway, thanks to you and others um, in Ingun Sandakker's lab, has been a real center for prosocial research. And then you conceived the idea of doing this bibliometric analysis of the book Prosocial. And it's just a really interesting window onto the spread of these ideas. And, it's an incomplete window because obviously people are using the ideas without necessarily citing the book. But the book has been well cited in only 5 years. And I asked Steve to to find me some comparison books published in the same year and the same genre. And indeed, this book in 5 years has been cited far more than the other books. So there's something uh, going viral, you might say, although that's not quite right because 5 years is a long time. But in any case, it's such a great window as to how these ideas are spreading, both geographically and disciplinarily. And then what we can do after having visualized this to increase the connectivity of our social network, and of course to expand it still further. And so with that, Fabio, I'll turn it over to you. Afterwards, we've left lots of time for discussion. So we'll have, and Fabio has kept his presentation relatively short. And so we'll have breakout rooms following his presentation so we can talk in small groups. And then we'll turn back to a general discussion. So Fabio, take it away.
Thank you, David. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are now. It's always interesting to work in international terms as we're doing, and sometimes we have meetings in very different times. But I'm very happy that we have, that I have the chance to meet you. And the first time we talked about this project was last year, right, David?
I think so.
We had a pro-social seminar at Oslo Met, and at this point, I present a little bit more work in conducting bibliometric analysis and also discuss a lot about complexity in organizations. And then we talk about the possibility of, doing something about the book and and um, and see how actually the central ideas of the book have been taken by different authors in different parts of the world, and how is what's actually the kind of academic publication that has derived from actually the book. Okay, so I like to say that my research area is learning and changing organizations, and through the lens of complex systems. And by complexity, I mean phenomena that we cannot explain in simple linear terms. We have multiple factors, multiple actors interact in ways that can be pretty difficult to predict. But when we identify patterns of our complex systems, we may think about ways of intervening in those systems and producing a better future. And I like to say that one of the reasons why I like to work with complexity is that I work with a space of interactions from which our common future is constantly being, reproduced, reconstructed. And I have some slides to share to you. And so this is my presentation. I hope you all can see it. And before I actually present my study, I have to say big thanks to Maria. You're here, Maria Ono, our PhD candidate, and our former master degree student, Sister Bachman, who is not here now, but who have played a very important role in actually analyzing this data. And we gather data from different databases, and Maria and Sister did an amazing job in actually organizing a lot of this data and providing a space for some of the results I'm going to share, the analysis and the results I'm going to share to you today. And by doing this, what I'm presenting to you is not really a final product. That's actually an ongoing study. So well, there's a lot of space for you to hear your own comments, your own suggestions of how we actually can go about with the data that we have. Okay, so yeah, looking forward to have your feedback, your suggestions and comments on this analysis. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a bibliometric and a network bibliometric analysis, and we have the starting point of the book, the 2019 book, in which which actually describes the different, both the theoretical foundations of Prosocial as a design program, and also how the program is actually developed, how it's actually implemented. And what we're doing today is actually, I'm sharing with you a visualization of the network of co-authorship. We're going to see a little bit the character of publication, what kind of publication has actually cited the book. And we see a little bit about the incidence of across different academic fields, across different disciplines. I have to say that by work with co-authorship is not the only form of academic cooperation. Academic cooperation may assume, well, different forms. But co-authoring papers, research publications is an important one, okay? So this is the limitation of this work is that we're working with co-authorship, but we also recognize that cooperation about Prosocial has taken many forms that not necessarily co-authoring academic publications, okay? But in this study, we're focused on the network of co-authorship. Actually, I'm keeping the visualization of the network for the last part. We're seeing the type of publication and a little bit of geographical distribution before, because I think that provides a bit of background to actually analyze what we're actually going to see when you look at the network. A little bit about, this kind of social analytic analysis, social network analysis of co-authorship. That belongs to movement in science that you call science of science, and how we actually research academic production. And this is actually based on one very interesting article called Science of Science, or Sci, published by Fortunato and colleagues on Science a few years ago. And they describe science academic productions in terms of complex, self-organizing, and evolving networks of scholars, projects, papers, and ideas. So that's when we look at ourselves in terms of, as complex systems. So we have self-organizing patterns, we have emergent patterns. And when we apply a network perspective, we may think about different ways of analyzing and measuring webs of interactions. And we can think about maybe think a little bit about where actually the different kind of contributions are located in a certain network structure, process of communication that could be facilitated, and maybe even discuss some elements of risk that we have in our social networks, okay? And that's not only webs of co-authorship, but social network analysis is conducted with, pretty much every kind of social group. We can we usually say that social networks are the structure of our complex systems. A little bit more about bibliometric analysis, and there are actually many different sets, the different techniques. There is a set of techniques to map the structure of academic productions in a given research field. So there are actually many different techniques, and I'm going to present some of it for you today. Okay, what I'm using today is a co-authorship of networks. But before seeing the network of analysis, a little bit about results and methods. And what we did was actually to go through different databases, two large multidisciplinary databases, Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar. And we identified academic publication that cited the book. basically what they have in common, all those uh, um, 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 uh, texts and that we identify is that they engage in a process of communication um, about the book and about different parts of the book. It could be a process of communication about concepts developed in the book, or it can be a discussion about Prosocial as a design program. So we're working at this point with publications from 2019 until August 2024. And that's one of the challenges of work with bibliometric analysis is that we have to be constantly updating our database. Why? Because our social networks are dynamic. There are new papers coming, new publications, and changes in network structure. So it's very likely that the first step we have to do actually after this presentation is to look at everything that has been published since August 2024 and actually update the findings that we have. Okay. But then we went through results from all those three databases. We actually spent some time like locating duplicates until we actually reached like 167 publications, and which had full access to 135 online. And that's the moment I had to say again a big thanks to Maria and Shisti, because they spent quite a lot of time work with the duplicates, refining and gathering like the results from different databases, eliminating the duplicates, and reaching like 167 results. And one thing that we also took some time was actually to go through all the names, because we see that different publications, the same authors, are presented with the differences in how the names are present. Like in some articles, you have David S. Wilson, sometimes D.S. Wilson, and so the one thing we had to do is actually to go through all our results and actually make sure that the names were presented in a uniform manner, so that we could actually analyze them in a social net through our program that actually analyze the networks. We identified actually as a network of 361 authors from 30 countries. So so it's a very international network. And it's a little bit about the geographical distribution, so we have, at least from the papers, all the 167 papers that we analyzed, we have 60 from the US. We're kind of expecting that the US would be the main base of publication where most authors are located. And then we have corporations across different continents or across different countries. And 26 papers actually a result of corporations across different continents. 5 papers are like a corporation across different European countries. 3 papers are cooperation in North America, and that's actually in the cooperation with the US and author scholars in the US and Canada. But then we have the UK with 18 publications. We have Norway with 15 publications, and for such a small country, we have actually quite a lot of like for a small country and with a non-English speaking country, they have quite many publications coming from Norway. And then we had other countries like Germany, Australia, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Canada, Peru, Switzerland, Mexico, Colombia. But when it comes to the cooperation across continents, we have even other countries that are not listed here. Yeah, we have even more authors from the US, Sweden, Australia, Costa Rica, Finland, Greece, France, Belgium, Cyprus, Uganda, Spain, Switzerland, Chile. Yeah, so we have altogether like 30 countries. Very international database. When you say countries, what do you mean here? We're not work with the nationality of the authors, but we're actually saying where they are located. Okay, the university that they, the university or the institution which they are affiliated, where it was located. So it's not about the nationality of the authors, but it's actually where they are located, in what part of the world. So this is a very international network, okay? The second data that I have to share is about academic discipline, and that was probably the most difficult one to analyze. Why so? Because it's very difficult sometimes to locate academic publication in a specific research field. So the decision that was made here was to look at the department or the institution which the authors were affiliated to. And even that is an imperfect way of identifying academic disciplines, because let's say someone working in the department of psychology might be actually conducting work that might be associated more with what we think about behavior analysis. And the relation between behavior analysis and psychology, that's actually a matter of debate. But then we had actually to develop a few categories, maybe make a few like maybe arbitrary decisions in terms of like allocating papers. But again, yeah, we have 43 papers had an interdisciplinary character, which means that we have at least two authors from different disciplines, from different academic departments. And then we have behavior analysis, we have 33 authors, papers actually from authors within behavior analysis. And then I have psychology, evolutionary biology, and biology, which are placed under the same category. And then management, under management, to have, for example, management education, organizational studies, medicine and healthcare, mental health is one category. Well, education, economics, public policy, ecology, geography, engineering, marketing, communication, agronomy, ecology, sustainability. That actually raises some very interesting questions about how we can actually talk about academic fields, how we actually set the boundaries across different academic fields. So this process has involved at least raising, I feel like, arbitrary decisions about joining papers with similar areas under the umbrella of, for example, management or even education. The interdisciplinary papers, we have pretty much all those disciplines plus, computer science, neuroscience, philosophy, cultural evolution, anthropology, environmental science, marketing. So many different fields that can be actually pretty challenging to actually, as I said, group and classify those in one specific research field. Even if you have to make maybe a few arbitrary and even biased decisions here, what we can actually see here is that is a very broad multidisciplinary development. And you see these people like talking about prosocial and cite in the book and different parts of the book in a wide array of research areas. That's something we can observe here. The next thing I would like to share is actually what was actually cited from the book. What is actually those different publications actually working with from the book, And then at least this is based on the 135 articles in publications that are actually available online. And one thing I forgot to say is that we were very flexible in terms of what to include. We have books, we have book chapters, we have peer review articles, we have master thesis, PhD thesis, and actually we were very flexible in terms of what material was actually included. As long as an academic kind of publication and it cited the book, we actually included. 66 of the 135 publications that we analyzed, they engaged in discussions are about central concepts brought by the book. Multi-level selection, ACT, cooperation, social behavior, or Ostrom's core design principles. Okay, so 66 of those articles, of those publications, they somehow referred, discussed, or even used as a kind of conceptual framework different concepts or different theories that are actually presented and developed in the book. Okay, we have 55 articles that actually mention Prosocial as a design program, as a program. And then we have 14 articles that were actually consisted of interventions that actually use the Prosocial as an intervention and analyze the results deriving from those interventions. So we can see that we have a lot of it raises conceptual developments or conceptual discussions about the central concepts of the book. There is a reference to the design, Prosocial as a design program, and we have the applications. Okay, I have applications of Prosocial actually as interventions, as parts of that were in which results were actually analyzed. And then we can share you sort of network, how the network structure looked like. But before showing you the whole network, I can say that this network has a sort of a network center in which we have 120 authors divided in 10 clusters that are connected. And this is what we call, I like to say, the network center, or an interconnected network center. So there's a network center that we have 10 clusters and 120 authors. The clusters we have, they do not correspond to national and organizational boundaries. Okay? So those clusters actually means co-authorship, and they do not correspond to organizational. It's not people from the same department, it's not people from the same country. Actually, those clusters actually have some degree of interdisciplinarity, and most of them are actually very international. But this is a sort of integrated center of the network. Okay? And this is how the integrated center looks like. Yeah, we have 10 clusters here that are actually connected with each other. The larger nodes, the size of the nodes we have here is actually how many papers were authored or co-authored by each author. So the big nodes are actually people that have more publications. So the size of the nodes is actually proportional to how many publications each node author or co-author. So this is a network center, which is actually